You are significant. You have seeds of greatness inside of you. You are not on accident. You are on purpose. You are here for a very divine, special purpose. And we are going to talk in this podcast about evidence that you are significant. As you are here listening to this episode, today is Tax Day. I'm recording this on April 15th. So I hope that you were able to either A, get your taxes done a long time ago, B, finish them up and get them sent off today, or C, file that extension. So, no matter which category you fall into, you can just breathe a big sigh of relief and know that today was a good day. Whoever you are, whichever situation you found yourself in, you are significant. And not letting our circumstances define us. And our worth and who we are and our purpose and where we're going is so, so important. And yet we know there's still some things required. I love the t-shirt, I'm never behind. And I love that saying. And at the same time, I've thought about wearing it to a doctor's office where they charge you a $25 fee if you cancel your appointment. So there are some times when it's like, yes, I'm never behind, but there still can be consequences depending on what I did do today or didn't do today. And so that can make us feel like we are behind or we're not enough, or maybe I'm not living my greatest life of significance as I should. And don't should all over yourself. Give yourself grace. Realize that it is okay, whatever category you're falling into. And I don't really like to use the word category because to me that is so close to the word click. And then that just gets into being judgmental. And being judgmental towards yourself is one of the harshest states to live in. And carrying around unforgiveness is also part of that. And so forgiving yourself, as we've talked about in another episode, is so important. And sometimes I just have to forgive myself moment to moment. If the dishes aren't done or the clean dishes aren't put away, as a woman, as a mother, as a new Gigi, I have a brand new grandbaby, just 5 days old today. And there's always more to do. There's always more I could have done. And so I can either look at the glass half full or half empty. I can either decide, you know what, I'm going to look at what I did do. And my new grandson's other grandmother is absolutely precious. I just love her. She's so talented. She was able to crochet my new grandson the cutest new outfit the day he was being born. And it is absolutely adorable. It has little fish. She crocheted him little fish with a bobber. Do you say bobbin or bobber? I sew also, so I'm getting it confused, but bobber. And the little white and red little ball that you have on your fishing line that bobs up and down, and it goes down if you have a fish on your line. So you know to jerk that line up and hopefully catch your fish on the other end. Plus a little overalls, crocheted blue denim color, so cute, and a little fishing hat. Oh my goodness, what a talented woman this other grandmother is to my new grandson. And so I could sit here and compare myself with her and feel like I'm not living into my significance, or I can say, nope, Number one, it is not a contest. It is not a contest at all. God has blessed my grandson with so many people that love him and adore him and already can't get enough of him. And I know I'm not the only one who feels that way about your child or your grandchild or your niece or your nephew. And there's just sometimes children that come into our life that we're just absolutely in love with from the first moment that we lay eyes on them. And the first moment we hold them in our arms, we adore them. And so I am so thankful that, I don't have to sit here and compare myself. That personal growth has happened to a level where when the devil tries to press those thoughts in on me, I can answer him and confidently, with self-worth, love myself and see my attributes and my talents and my gifts and be so grateful that my grandson has two grandmothers that are showering him with their gifts. And every gift is not bought. Every gift is not even handmade. Sometimes it's the gift of time, the gift of love, the gift of wisdom. And so I'm just so excited, so thankful that you are here, that you are living into your significance in this moment by listening to this podcast and up-leveling your level of personal growth and your mindset of just how precious you are, and that God made every single one of us, including you, with seeds of greatness inside of you. So I wanted to ask you to give this podcast a 5-star rating. I noticed that there aren't very many ratings yet. And if you will go in and give the podcast a rating on the platform you're listening to it on, that would be such a gift from you to this podcast so that more people will learn about it and be able to listen. I also wanted to share with you tonight the Enhanced Self-Care Guide that is free and linked in every episode of You Are Significant. And this self-care guide is there as a gift from me to you so that you can know every single day you are equipped to live your life to its fullest in your most significant self. So as you know by now, because so many of you have listened to episode number 1, and I so appreciate you giving this podcast your support and tuning in and listening. And in that episode, I talk about my story of living with an addict and us both coming into recovery, him as the addict and me as the codependent. And some days are full of joy and hope and peace. And it's easy to check off that to-do list. It's easier to know what that list is and then get it done. And then other days, there's trauma. There's even memories that come up, and it's not necessarily related to he and I and our marriage or any of those things. It could just be a trigger that's linked from something in the past, even something that is forgiven and quote unquote forgotten, but still we have triggers, and that's just part of being human. And so still we have triggers. And so it's so important to have a guide that we can turn to, especially on days like that where we need extra support and we need maybe minute-to-minute, task-to-task support so that we don't let anything or anyone important fall through the cracks, right? One of the things that can be a struggle when you're struggling to care for yourself is to care for your children. And it's not that you don't love them, it's that the trauma or the trigger can make just getting up out of the bed your main victory for that day, right? And so being able to get into your day and have a checklist to go by. So I wanted to talk a little bit in detail about this enhanced self-care guide and what is there and why it's considered enhanced, because lots of us can look up a guide that has 5 or 10 things, but this one's enhanced because it has different areas. So it has yourself, it has your family, and it has your work. So pretty much you can get up and you can start with yourself. And when you get out of bed, you're going to be able to check that off your list. You have an actual checklist in the guide that you can actually check off: get out of the bed, taking care of yourself, and then eat nutritious food. Because when I'm having a rough day, it's easy to just grab whatever and even start a binge. And that's part of what I'm in recovery for, is emotional eating. And, you know, sometimes it just comes up, right? Sometimes something emotional is going on and I don't even know exactly what it is. Like, where is this coming from? What is eating me? And I have to take the time to stop and ask myself, what's eating you, Darlene? And so when I answer that, then I can journal about it. I can start to pour it out. And journaling is so powerful because instead of rethinking it over and over again, reliving it in your mind and letting it gnaw at you, and then maybe you acting out in whatever your thing is that you do to soothe yourself. For me, it was eating. And instead of doing that, you can let it go and then stay in your state of recovery. So, eating nutritious food, give yourself a check mark for that. And this self-care guide is going to have that on there for you. Brushing your teeth, because self-care and hygiene habits, wow, what an effort that can take. And also, it's easy to forget. Take a shower, right? So taking a shower is one of those things that a lot of people take for granted. But when you are struggling to get the things done from day to day, or maybe it's one bad day, moment to moment, getting that shower is like, woohoo, such a big victory. Next is getting dressed. So many people are staying in their pajamas, and it's something I think that even heightened over the pandemic, because people didn't have to get up and go to work, and more people are working from home. There is so much science and study behind, if you will simply get dressed for the day, even if you're staying home, it just changes your whole attitude, changes how you feel, changes your level of confidence, and maybe even your awareness of your own self-worth. So the next page in this enhanced self-care guide is taking care of your family. So feeding your kids, because, and I probably should have put on here, getting food. You need to be able to go to the store, get some nutritious food for your children. But I have simply on here, feed your kids, dress your children. If they're little, of course, if they're older, just making sure they have some clean clothes to wear, taking your kids to school, going to work. And if you can't go to work, call in. So many times I've seen people who are either codependents or even the addict themselves, who's struggling and trying to be in recovery. on a hard day, it's maybe you can't go to work. If you can't go to work, call in, communicate. And also at the end of the day, reading a positive book. So whether that's the Bible or a personal growth book, the personal growth book that I am reading right now is Jamie Kern Lima's book, Worthy. And I am absolutely loving this book. And I wanted to highlight just a few things in here. This book is how to believe you are enough and transform your life. And I think that this book is going to help you to feel empowered that you are enough. And so I am going to share just a few nuggets from that before this episode is over. But just to keep continuity with the self-care guide, the enhanced self-care guide that you can get from me for free, is take care of your work. So write down the top 3 to-dos for today. And so many times we overwhelm ourselves with like a list of 20 things or 15 things, and then we feel like we failed if we didn't get that all done. So just write down your top 3 things that you need to make sure that you get done today. And if you have a really good established routine, and that routine is things like from the other pages of this enhanced self-care guide, then that narrows it down to like, what are the top 3 unique things of the day that I need to get done today? Envision your success. So taking time to do the 4-sided breath that I've taught on another episode, where you breathe in for 4, hold it for 2, breathe out for 4, hold it for 2. And as you breathe, envision the result that you are going for today happening, and calling in the feeling of passion or elation, joy that it did happen. So moving into those love-based emotions and tying your emotion to that vision of success. Taking a 5-minute break every hour is also a third thing on this enhanced self-care checklist that you can do. And as you take that break, you can check it off. That break is going to give you a chance to do some jumping jacks, go for a walk around the floor of your office, or walk around your house. And you can turn on a fun song and play a fun song while you are walking, so that it just goes by in a flash and you practice some self-care while getting your work done. Release breathing. So I love this, taught by Brendan Burchard. He has a YouTube video where he teaches breathing in. And as you exhale, you say, release, 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 release. Inhale again, and then say, release, 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 release. And as you do that, don't you just already feel better? Do it with me one time. Inhale, release, 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 release. And so 20 minutes is a long time if you are in fight or flight, or what is it called? Flight or fright mode. But as you train your nervous system to slow down and come out of flight or fright, then it'll just get easier and more natural. And so if you are like, oh my goodness, there's no way I could do 20 minutes, start with 1 minute, and then 5, and then see if you can build it up just a little bit at a time until you are at the 20 minutes. And I think you'll be surprised how much better you feel. And think about it. This is one of the ways I got started doing it, is I was like, if I'm pulling a 16-hour day and I am struggling to take 20 minutes for myself, I've got to change something. And so that really just helped me to start making myself a priority. And I do this early in the morning or late at night. And that way, the day hasn't gone crazy yet, and my nervous system is more calm if I do it as a bookend on my day. So release breathing. And then the last thing on this take care of your work is 60-second desk cleanup. And I need to be doing this one more myself. I'd forgot about this one. And man, what a difference it makes. Even if it's like the living room and you and your kids, or you and your husband, or just you if you live by yourself, just set a timer for 1 minute and say, okay, in this 1 minute, I'm going to pick up the blanket, I'm going to fold it, I'm going to pick up my shoes, I'm going to carry dirty dishes to the kitchen, I'm going to set the remotes back in the place where they go so I can find them tomorrow. And wow, you can get so much done in 1 minute. And if you did that at your desk for your work, you will feel so much more creative and feel more organized, again, more self-confident, and be able to come in the next day to your workspace and feel like a dynamo, like, wow, I have got this going on. And so just taking, 60 seconds to clean up your desk area before you walk away for the day. So, I want to come back to this book, this Worthy book that finishes the Enhanced Self-Care Guide. Make sure that you go to the link to this podcast and download that, and it's yours free as my gift to you to help you through your day and really conquer the day. So this book, Worthy, that I was talking about earlier by Jamie Kern Lima, I am enjoying this so much. I've just finished chapter 13, and Jamie was the founder of It Cosmetics, and she developed a concealer that has helped women who have rosacea to be able to effectively cover that up. And she was anchoring the news one day, and the little piece in her ear, the earpiece, the guy was saying, "You have something on your face." And she's anchoring the news, and he says, "You have something on your face. It's still there. It's still there. It's still there." And she is like starting to get so nervous and sweat and be worried, like, am I going to get fired? And so that motivated her to go home and formulate a concealer that would not crack, because what was happening is her concealer was cracking with the rosacea and how it made the concealer do. And so she went home and started formulating a concealer that would work and stay smooth and effectively cover for someone who has rosacea. And she did it, but getting it out there to the world and getting it on the shelves to be sold was a whole nother journey. And so she wrote the book, Believe It. And then she was able to go on after lots of rejection and lots of no's and lots of people telling her, even attacking her body image, because she wanted to model this herself and show that women with rosacea, it worked, rather than what was the norm back then, was putting makeup on women who already had great skin and really didn't need it. And she wanted to model it on women who did need it, and even model it herself. And so I encourage you to look up her story. She goes on, finally one day she gets a break, And she's able to talk at an event that lots of tables and booths were set up with lots of different vendors. And she was there and she took a chance. She wasn't supposed to leave her table, but she did. And she walked across the room to QVC. And she had already asked QVC before for a spot and been turned down, but she talked to someone different this time. And the lady told her, you get 10 minutes. And so she had her lucky break, and she wears 2 pair of spandex, not because of her body, but because of the sweat. She was just sweating so much to catch the sweat. She goes in, and she didn't know ahead of time, but if your product does not do well, it's minute to minute. They will just pull you off and your spot is over. And so she starts demoing the concealer, and the minute is going by and she's wondering, how are we doing? How are sales going? Is it? And the next minute goes by and the next minute. And after 6 minutes, the concealer is sold out, and they did it. So it is such a story of triumph. IT Cosmetics was purchased by L'Oreal for $1.2 billion. And this is from memory, so if I'm off, forgive me, but $1.2 billion. And she goes on to stay on with L'Oreal for 3 years to help them as a consultant, so that the product does really well and the company does really well. So she learned after she had this victory in her life that there was a difference between confidence and self-worth. Self-confidence and self-worth are not the same thing. And I just love what she says on page 4 of her book, Worthy. She says, this is what I know 100% for sure. Oprah said as she held up my first book, Believe It, live to the camera, you don't become what you want, you become what you believe. I did everything in my power to keep my jaw from dropping open, to not pee my pants, and to believe this moment was real and actually happening. You see, it almost didn't happen. In fact, many of the most significant moments in my life almost never happened, because for years, while my soul dreamed wildly big, bold dreams, and imagined moments like this one with Oprah, I never thought they could actually happen, because I didn't believe I was worthy of them ever actually happening. In fact, and maybe you can relate to this, I've spent most of my life feeling like I was not enough and doubting myself out of my own destiny. I just love her saying that, because I can relate to that. And she goes on to say, if not enoughness feels like your hidden twin, then we might just be long lost triplets. Oh, so good. So she says, the moment you learn to believe you are worthy, your entire life, the past and future generations of your family, and our entire world change for the better. On page 6, I love how she has little nuggets in her book. And if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see the little nuggets on the page. She says, I believe one of the most prevalent forms of cancel culture is one that no one talks about. It's us canceling ourselves before we even try. And she goes on, this book is so full of so many nuggets and so many good thoughts. Page 19 is another favorite. There's a quote, and I love that she starts each chapter with a quote. And that was actually from the introduction in chapter 1, the one thing that transforms everything. Her quote is, she said, I'm just not giving up. The woman I'll be a few years from now is counting on me, and the world shifted. So that's her quote. And then on page 21, she says, and I'm going to end with this: self-worth and self-confidence. Your self-worth is the foundation of your fulfillment. Without it, you'll never feel truly fulfilled. But before we go any further, I want to clarify the difference between self-worth and self-confidence. They're two very different things, but we so easily confuse them, and many of us spend our entire lives focused only on things that build our self-confidence, not realizing they do nothing to build our self-worth, which is a huge reason that when we finally get to do that thing and the next thing, we're still left feeling unfulfilled. So, self worth is the internal, deep rooted belief that you are enough and worthy of love and belonging just as you are. Self-confidence is how you evaluate yourself based on your qualities, skills, and traits. It's also how strongly you believe in your ability to meet life's challenges, your willingness to try and go for it, and to succeed. Self-confidence is linked to external things that can fluctuate often. So, your self confidence can also fluctuate often. It can rise and fall based on mood, comparisons, circumstances, performance, and approval from others. Self worth is believing you are enough, lovable, and valuable innately and exactly as you are, regardless of how you evaluate your traits and independent of what's happening around you. So I love that self-worth is really internal, and it is seated inside of you. And it isn't going to fluctuate based on self circumstances, what's going on, who said this to you, who did that, comparing yourself with them. All of those things are not going to come into play with self-worth. When you know and you have this knowing in your belly, and Jamie talks about that knowing as well, that God has made you for more and that you have a purpose to fulfill that is important, then no matter what happens, whether you're accepted or rejected, whether you're ghosted or the person says yes, no matter what, you know that you have significance. Thank you for listening to You Are Significant. Please leave us a review. Please leave comments, give us a like, and share this out. We appreciate you here on You Are Significant, and I cannot wait till next time to spend time with you.